Let's say hi to Joe. Go ahead, Joe. Say hi to everybody. Uh-oh. Do we not have sound anymore? Oh, wait.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. It was my fault. It's always my fault. But we had a major
user error.
I'm sorry?
User error.
Oh yeah, totally. It's always that for me. It's just it's like my brain moves so fast that when I try to apply like actual movement, it just doesn't work. Like my mouth shuts down, my hands shut down. I mean, it just goes.
I feel you.
Dude, it's crazy how much your brain just runs in the background and just controls everything you do. It just you know, like, I guess we'll just jump right into it, but you're pretty open about your social anxiety and your depression and stuff. Like, and like, as soon as I started listening and digging into you and really getting to know you on your stream and getting ready for this, I was like, wow, me and Joe have a lot in common because social anxiety, depression, and all these things that sort of run around in your brain that sort of kind of control your everyday movements, and you don't even realize it's happening until you're sort of in this until you're in like a panic or you're yelling at the grocer or you know whatever it is.
By the time it settles in, you're like, oh shit, and then it's like you're already going over the waterfall. It's like you can't stop once you go over the waterfall.
Yes,
you're there. So it's like, all right, I'm just gonna ride it out.
I'm committing.
I'm committed now, so I've created this, so might as well just
we're gonna live in this moment until it's over, and whoever's around us has to suffer that as well.
Yep. No, welcome. And I come with a disclaimer. Most people that come into my life, whether it's a girlfriend that I date or anybody comes in my life, I have to really like at some point I'm like, all right, you're gonna be in my life a little bit. I have a disclaimer. And I kind of explain to them. I'm like, okay, cool. Now that we know that, I'm like, so if you see me acting weird, just let it go. And if you feel the need to ask me something. But if not, I'll let you know if I need anything. So
yeah. I mean, it does become such a problem in relationships. I mean, not just like being like emotional relationships, like a marriage or something, but in the relationships of your everyday life. And it just it's crazy. You were saying how like you're going over the waterfall and you have and you like. You're just like, I'm just going to commit. Like you see it happening, you see like your day spinning out or whatever, that moment spinning out and you just keep going. And it's just like, you just give in and you watch it happen and you're not really even trying at sometimes to stop it, you know, like sometimes you like are like, you know what, I'm feeding into it and it's feeding something inside of me and I'm just going with it.
As I've learned over the years, like the more you fight it, the more it's gonna be worse. The more you like, accept it and let it just kind of flow through you, the quicker it'll get over, or the easier it is to deal with. So, and being a performer, some people are like, oh my God, how the hell do you perform? How do you get up on stage in front of like thousands of people sometimes and like do what you do? I'm like, I don't know. That's a different. I don't know. It's like almost a different personality, and it turns on, and that just happens. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah,
it's just what it is.
Yeah,
but I'm not the only one. I mean, so many of my peers, who and some of them being either local musicians or even musicians that are sold millions of records that I've encountered and talked with, and they're like, yeah, we got the same issue, but they get out there and they feed that energy out, and that's their way to kind of get it out of them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, totally, man.
It's not easy to explain, I guess.
It really isn't. And like I started talking about how like you give a disclaimer and it affects relationships around you, and you sort of people don't really understand it if they're not going through it, and that's the most frustrating thing for people, I think, dealing with somebody who, I mean, because like I can't imagine what my wife has to go through deal with my shit. But
well, I could call my two ex-wives. I'm sure they would love that. They would love to chime in on this. Like, oh boy,
Yeah. But how have you? I mean, as someone who is, who's always been hustling and who's sort of been in the spotlight for so long. How have you found ways of sort of circumventing that? Because even, when I look through your old videos and stuff, I mean, you're playing for thousands of people sometimes. And, And I know what you're saying. When you get up on stage, you just sort of turn into another person, and you just sort of become comfortable with that environment, and that's your environment that you control. And a big part of anxiety is that lack of control. And so maybe that's something. Oh, thank you, Nelly, for the sub. Sorry, Joe. You know how this goes.
Nice. For a number of years, I dealt with it the wrong way.
Yes.
So, being in the business that I am in, it's just easy. Alcohol and drugs are like readily available, and there's such an easy way to self-medicate. So like, if you're feeling anxious before a show, a couple shots of Jack Daniels and a joint will, definitely help,
Yes,
so,
sir.
but those always end up backfiring, you use alcohol or drugs, it always ends up backfiring in some way. But it wasn't until years later that I actually started doing therapy, and it wasn't until like the past 3.5 or 4 years that I got serious with therapy. Because when I was first diagnosed with panic and anxiety disorder, I was 21.
Oh, wow.
I was a senior in college. So I was 21, almost 22. And back then that was, there was such an, mental health was, like, oh, you're crazy, you're going to end up in a loony bin. It was not talked about that much. And my doctor just like, oh, you have depression, you have anxiety, here's this pill.
Yeah.
And if this pill doesn't work, take this pill.
Yeah.
And that was it. There wasn't a discussion like, hey, maybe we should get you to see a psychologist or a therapist, because that was like, that meant that you were, okay, you're fucking crazy, or you're something. So for years, that was just the easy fix. You wouldn't go to your doctor. Your doctors, I'm not going to discredit any doctors, but doctors are more or less about your body, taking care of your body. They're not schooled in how the brain actually works.
Right.
And how you speak and everything else. Right. They know how it works.
Yeah, it's a different study altogether.
Right. So it wasn't until years later when I would have periods in my life where it would be dormant, and then some change or some things would happen, and then it would flare up. It would be like, some kind of, I'm having a flare up right now of whatever rash or whatever that you have, or an allergy.
Yeah.
And then I would get it under control somehow, and it would flare up. And then it was like 3.5 years ago that it flared up more. It was probably 4 years ago at this point. Now I think about it, it's 4 years. It flared up and it came back with a vengeance. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try therapy. And it took about 2 or 3 therapists, and I finally found one. And I did hypnotherapy with this person. We did exposure therapy. We did so much stuff. And not to elongate this whole explanation, but it was like when I learned how to find coping mechanisms, proper coping mechanisms, and being able to see that waterfall before I go over it, and get the warning signs of like, oh, I'm getting close to that waterfall. Like being just more self-aware of certain things. And when I'm starting to either be manic or I'm starting to see myself go that way, how to pull myself out of that a lot quicker. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that I don't go over that waterfall once in a while.
Yeah.
But it also means that, I've just gotten better being able to cope with it. And, it's going to be a lifelong thing with me. It's something that's been with me since I was a kid, and it's still with me at 46 years old, and it'll be with me until the day I die. But I look at it as I was gifted something. This is my gift, and stop thinking it's a problem and use it to your advantage. Yeah. Instead of shining the flashlight into your eyes and blinding yourself, find out how to take that energy that's causing all that and turn it the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, man. No, I mean, and it's, like I deal with that stuff, the same thing, and I'm learning how to deal with it healthily. And same thing growing up as a musician, drinking and drugging, and then I stopped drinking and drugging, and then all of a sudden, all those things that you're trying to ignore and run away from, they all just float to the surface, just so brilliantly.
Like, wow, okay, this is what all those things. I wasn't just partying; I was like literally suppressing shit. You know?
And it's a long, deep, it's a long crawl out of there. And I'm just now, like in these last couple of years, I'm just now getting a handle on it. I'm seeing a therapist. I mean, like I'm doing the whole thing. It takes a lot of fucking work, man.
It takes a while. And I didn't, when I flared back up this last time, I was hesitant to go back on any kind of drugs.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't like, the way they made me feel and stuff like that. But my therapist finally, after like a few months, like talked me into it, because I had a real bad spot. I was literally going to gigs, playing 3-hour gigs and doing it like 5-6 days a week. It was in the middle of summer, and I was literally sitting behind my piano for 3 hours having a panic attack, but yet still trying to perform for a couple hundred people.
Yeah, wow.
I don't know how the hell I got through that summer, but somehow I did. I was motivated by the fact that I had to make money, probably. It's like, okay, this is my living. I got to find a way to do it. But it was hell. And finally, he's like, you know what? Why don't you just take something for a little while? And I did. And I took Lexapro for about a year and a half. And he goes, just to turn things down a little bit so you can focus on what you need to do. And I think that's what those drugs are really meant for. They're really meant for you to kind of turn the volume down just enough so that you can actually do the work on the other side, so that you don't need them. Eventually you don't need them. And I haven't been on mine in a year. It's been a year and a half since I've been off them.
Wow.
And, but I don't know if people should take them their whole life, because you're not fixing it. You're not fixing the actual problem.
Right.
You're fixing some chemical issues in your head, but you're not going to fix anything. It's like getting gastric bypass surgery. Yeah. You're going to lose a bunch of weight, but your stomach didn't cause you to be 500 pounds. Right.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
Exactly. This caused it, not your stomach.
Right. Right. It's that's another thing that I was like very connected to you on is weight. And I'm not trying to badmouth you or anything. You're obviously you look great, and
thank you.
And like when I was in high school, I was about 320. And I didn't really fit into the desk, so I had to sort of like slide in, like, and then my gut would hang over there and be like, bleh. And it's just, and I was sweat, and it was.
Seeing your face now, I can't imagine what you must have looked like at 320.
That's crazy. I was still beautiful, baby. But it wasn't. But it wasn't. It's a hard thing to cope with, and that I feel like was something that helped in developing this anxiety and developing these. I felt like it was all interconnected. I mean, and I guess what I'm getting at and what I'm asking you about is, did you find any kind of solace in working out, and did you find any kind of?
There was one factor that in all those years, like growing up, I was able to calm my anxiety, and it wasn't until the second half of my senior year in college when my anxiety started creeping in, and what. I'm like, what happened? And I had to go back, and this was years after the fact. Like, what changed? How was I able to control my anxiety younger? Then all of a sudden I couldn't control it. Was it just I got older? Did I get more responsibilities? There was one factor that was definitely it. I grew up, I'm not only a musician, but I was a sports addict. I played football. I played baseball. I ran track. I shot the shot put. I was the captain of all those teams. I got a college scholarship to go play football. And it was when football was over with and I stopped working out all the time that the anxiety started creeping in. And that's when I started putting on the weight and all that stuff. I'm an athlete by heart. So like when I finally got back into being an athlete, all of a sudden my body remembered like what a release this was. Yeah. And that was a huge part of like, right at that same time when I was going to a therapist, I got back into the gym. And then a few months later, I started doing my nutrition and all these, it wasn't just the therapy, it was all this stuff. But when I found my working out, that is my solace. That takes me away from all of my work, gives me an hour and a half of just get all the energy out, make yourself almost want to puke. And then all of a sudden you burned off all that extra energy that you have, so it was huge for us.
Yeah, man. Yeah, me too. Exercise, regular exercise. I mean, like I can feel like if I go too long without exercise, like I can feel it. Like my brain doesn't function correctly. Yep. I'm moody. I'm anxious. Like this morning, I woke up and I was just fucking anxious. I'm just sitting there, and like, what a waste of energy that is. Just sit there. Your body's telling you you're in direct danger when there's nothing. I'm sitting quietly in my living room, and so, you know, like I had to jog it out today, so like I wasn't a mess to talk to you.
Right.
So.
And I tell people, they're like, some people are like, well, you know, well, you do CrossFit and it's a very extreme form of exercise. I go, it is. And I mean, I'm not saying that you have to do CrossFit. You just have to exercise. Yeah. Me, I was a college athlete. I was a New York State. We used to have a thing here in New York State called the Empire State Games, which is our version of the Olympics. I was a competitor in that. I was a competitive body, you know, Olympic, you know, or power lifter, wow. You know, so in order for me to get what I need out of it, I have to have some extremes. That's the way my life lives. I don't do anything in the middle. If anyone knows me, like I take everything like, oh, that's a bowl of ice cream. Well, I want 3 bowls of ice cream.
Yeah, I want the pint, bitch.
You're right. You're gonna have 4 beers. Well, I'm gonna have 10. Yeah. You know, that's just that's how I do it. So when it comes to exercise, when I find something that's actually that's how I operate. Some people can just do light yoga and some jogging, stuff like that. That's perfect. You can still do that. But for me, I need to be pushed to the absolute limits in order to freaking get what I need out of it. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. No, that's great. You know, that obsessive nature is very, it can be very damaging, but it can also be very, it can be directed in very positive ways, like music. And so I'm curious, how did you start in singing? When did you start? I mean, do you have this in your family? Is your family like full of musicians?
Well, my family, there's no musicians per se, family, not on the level of mine, but there was always a deep love of music. And I can't even remember when I started playing music because I started doing it at such a young age. Yeah. I like literally remember sitting down at the piano at the age of 4 and literally like learning how to, you know, I would listen to something on the radio and I would find the keys and I would start playing along. And my mom knew how to read music, knew how to kind of play piano because she played in her church when she was younger. So she taught me how to read music and do simple chords and simple scales on the piano. And I rolled with it. And both of my brothers were in chorus in high school, so they could sing. But I was the one that kind of got all of that, you know.
Gotcha.
So from a very young age, everything was music. And if I wasn't, as soon as I got done with sports after school, I would run home. And the first thing I would do was sit down and play piano. So, you know, I loved my sports, but as soon as sports was done, I wanted to play my music. So it's been a part of me since I can literally remember. It wasn't like, oh, well, you know, 13, I started picking up the thing and I discovered this. Like music is just, it's been there as long as I can remember.
Right on. So then, because I'm really anxious to get to Brand New Sin, because I know that's when things sort of pick up for you in your music career. Yeah. So what was your music career leading up to Brand New Sin?
Well, you know, I went to college and I was trying to do like the right thing by going to college and getting a degree, and I got a degree in history, and it was supposed to be yeah, exactly. I got a degree in history, minor in education, and then I realized I really didn't want to be a teacher. And I'm like, I'm still trying to be a musician, but I was only going to shows, and I had lots of friends that were in local bands and stuff like that. But I was not like diving into the music scene like everyone else was, because I felt like, well, that was going to be a waste of my time. Yeah. So then I went back to school and I got a degree in audio engineering. Oh, shit. You know, for live sound and studio work. And this was around this sounds weird, but at the turn of the century, because it's been 20 years, we can say the turn of the century. At the turn of the century, I was back in school. And then while I was in recording school, I realized, I'm like, I would be playing or singing around people at recording school, or I was setting up, even in college, I set up my piano and at college parties and play at college parties. And everyone's like, why aren't you like pursuing music as a career or a job? Or why aren't you in school for music? Why aren't you in all these things? And I'm like, I don't know, if this doesn't seem the right thing to do. But then I got done with recording school and I was moving back. I was going to recording school in Baltimore. And my first wife and I were like, all right, well, we're done here. Why don't we move home? We missed our family here in Syracuse. So we moved home and bought a house here. And when I was about to move home, one of my best friends called and said, hey, the band God Below, which was the precursor to Brand New Sin, just got rid of their singer. And they're looking to change the sound, change the name of the band. They just need something more in your vein. So they've been trying out people, and he goes, I told them that you're moving home, and I got you a tryout. So I tried out for the band in September of 2001, and I got the gig. And they already had, I'm making a very long story short, but they already had label interest by a lot of independent labels.
Oh, nice.
For their old bands. So the label interest was there. So when we had the demos, all these labels were like, well, let's hear the demos. And we went in and cut a couple songs. And immediately we had 3 labels who were like, we're coming up. And we had one label come up from New Jersey, a small independent label called Now or Never Records. And they literally wanted to sign us on the spot. And, we signed a record deal and recorded a record. And then 6 months later, we're on tour with Motorhead. So like, I had a very untypical thing. The very first band I joined, I get a record deal. And then 6 months later, I'm opening for Motorhead. So
that's insane. I can't even imagine.
Like most people look, I was in bands for 15 years and they did all this stuff.
That's me.
Like, no, I just... Right. I waited for the right opportunity. I'm like, that's the one. And I just happened to step into it. But it was scary because all my guys in my band have been playing in bands for, since their teenage years.
Right.
We were all in our late 20s at that time. I other than being able to sing my ass off, I had like that much experience in being in a band or being anything. And now I'm being thrust into the touring lifestyle and everything. So I had to basically be like, all right, well, I don't know if I can swim in the deep end, but I'm going to fucking try.
Yeah.
So I did. And that day changed. September 17th, 2001 was the day I joined that band.
Wow.
And life as I know it completely changed. And I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for that day.
It's so interesting that you just were like, that your music career started with such a big splash. Now, as things turn out, was that record deal something that you regret, or was that something?
Nope.
Is this experience something that you really enjoyed, or is it something that you could have done without in life?
Well, there's 2 sides. I tell everybody, I go, it was the greatest decision I ever made in my life. But financially, it was the worst decision I ever made in my life. There was 10 years from, 2001 until I left the band in 2008. And there was probably a couple years after that. But it was almost a good 8 or 9 years of just it was the financial pitfall, not a windfall, pitfall, or whatever you want to call it. It was horrible. It was horrible for all of us. And it's really what created the monster of the reason why I left the band and why we were all at odds for so many years, because we just weren't making any money. We would have to come home. We'd have to hustle. But, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was those years of struggling that got me to be the success that I am now.
Yeah.
And if I didn't struggle then, anybody that has success in music will tell you, dude, it was 10 years of, crap, or 8 years of crap. There was a ton of crap before they got to a point where they actually made money. Very few people just all of a sudden turn it on and become, super successful.
Yeah.
I don't regret it. Financially, sometimes I'm like, I look at some of my friends and, they have a little more financial security than I do, because I spent the better part of my 20s and 30s not making any money when they were putting money away and buying houses and stuff like that. So, but I'm also the person that they look at and they're like, dude, you followed your dream, you saw it through, and now you call your own shots. And they're like, we're miserable at this job that we took when we were 22, but we put in this time. So like, we're just riding out till we can retire. So, there's good sides and bad sides. I wouldn't trade it for the world. And even though the money wasn't there, the experience that I gained is priceless. And the stories that I gained are fucking priceless.
Well, anybody who hangs out in your stream will know that you got stories for days. And
days.
One that you put up the other day on Facebook that I ended up sharing, and I just by the way, Nelly was reminding everybody that Brand New Sin did have a reunion show in 2018.
Yep.
We'll get there, but
yes.
oh my God, see, this is what I do. It's this chat thing, but no, you put on I get distracted with the chat, and then all of a sudden I forget where I'm at.
Hey, look, a squirrel.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still getting used to this. When it's just a podcast, when I'm just talking to somebody, it's like no problem. But then you throw in this whole other, thank you, Cowtown
I'm glad
Steve.
I can't see that.
Right. And Cowtown Steve says you need some pictures for your back wall there. But
I do. Well, I could always turn around and.
There you go, and then you can see where the magic happens. This is nice. You guys get a good inside glimpse of Joe's setup there, which is very nice.
There you go. Which is I'm about to have that whole streaming station completely rebuilt.
Nice.
So,
hell yeah, that's awesome, man. But the story was on Facebook was a great story, and I don't know if you want to tell it again, but it's about Peter Steele and your experience with Peter Steele on tour with Typo Negative. Which, by the way, because you did this beautiful thing where you told this really awesome story, and then you went in and played Green Man, which is like my favorite Typo Negative song ever. And like I was just like, this guy's a fucking genius, and he just does it. It's just like it was genius. It was perfect. And please, if you don't mind, I mean, you don't have to tell that story, but if you have another story, I don't have to tell that.
There's a lot of stories that came from that, but like my experience.
Yeah, please tell me your experience with Typo and Peter Steele, because he's no longer with us, and I love that band.
It was crazy because how I discovered Typo Negative is I went and saw Pantera play in '94, and I saw them here at an auditorium in Utica, and I didn't know who Typo Negative was, and Typo was the opening band, and myself and my buddies, we all got in there, and Typo came out, and we're like, who is this? Right. We were blown away by them. And then a couple months later, they played the small club here in Syracuse, our home club here in Syracuse called Lost Horizon. And I just all of a sudden became a giant Typo Negative fan. So like for years, to jump ahead and I'll jump back. Then all of a sudden to be friends with these guys and then be like, all right, go back and tell 22-year-old Joe or 21-year-old Joe that he's going to be friends with these guys that he's like becoming a huge fan of. It was surreal. So fast forward years later, 2006, early 2006, we're in Brooklyn, New York, recording with we had a producer named Joey Z, and Joey Z is the guitar player for Life of Agony. And our manager also managed Life of Agony. Life of Agony is from Brooklyn, right in that whole scene with Typo Negative, Biohazard, the hardcore scene, all those bands that came out of that Brooklyn scene all know each other. So we're in the studio recording one day. We're like probably in pre-production for the record. And the phone to the studio rings, and Joey's like, will you answer that for me? And I answer it, and I hear the voice on the other end. And I'm like, dude, that's got to be Pete. You can't miss that voice. And I go, Joey, it's Pete. And he's like, oh, it's Pete Steele. He goes, tell him hang on a second. I'm like, all right, Pete, hang on a second. So I put him on hold because Joey was playing in a side project with Peter called Carnivore. And Carnivore was the band that was the precursor to Typo Negative. So Pete was like reuniting or reinvigorating or resurrecting Carnivore. So he was calling to talk about some Carnivore stuff. So he gets on the phone with Joey, and I joked to him. I'm like, tell Pete that he needs to come down and sing on our record. So Joey's like, hey man, I really want you to check this band out. You should come out and check them out. They come sing on the record. Pete's like, well, when do you want me to be there? So, they work it out. Like 2 days later, Pete shows up to the studio with a couple of boxes of, like 3 bottles of wine, comes rolling in. He had just been like, no matter how successful Pete got, Pete always loved the work. He loved to like work. Yeah. He was like remodeling bathrooms or something. Like, he didn't have to, but he enjoyed it. Yeah. So he comes in, he's like, I got sheetrock all over me and all that stuff. And Pete is 6'9". He's larger than life. And he comes in and he's like, I've been listening to the band. I'm a fan. I can't believe that you guys are from New York. It sounds like you're from like the South somewhere. So we play him the track that we're thinking about having singing on, give him the lines. I'm like, I want you to sing this line, that line. And Pete's like, all right. He went in and sang his parts. We sat around all night just talking to him, hanging out. And at the end of the night, he's like, I'll call my manager, I'll call my record label, I'll get okay, don't worry about any of them. If they call you and be like, you didn't get a release form for that, he goes, I control it. And then at the end of it, he's like, we're going to go on tour either this late fall or early next year. And he goes, I want to take you guys out on tour. Wow. And we're like, get the fuck out of here. And like, you hear those empty promises. I want to say empty promises, but you hear people talk that all the time. Right. You meet people in other bands and they love to take you on tour. But that's not always that person or that band's call. There's, right. There's booking agents, there's promoters, there's record labels, there's money involved. So like, they can't just like, hey, we're going to take this band out. So we took it with a grain of salt because this is our third record. We heard a lot of those stories over the years and some of them didn't come true. So we're like, we'll wait and see. And then one day I got a phone call from Pete and Pete's like, hey, I need your manager's number. We're going to put this tour together. Wow. And Pete came through on his promise to us, man, and took us out on tour. Wow. So not only was Pete just a great guy, I mean, he was a man of his word. And just what a cool dude, Yeah. And then while we're on tour, all these other stories happen while we're on tour. But the last week of the tour, he comes in the dressing room one day and he's like, would you want to come up and sing Black Number One every night for the rest of the tour? He goes, we'll get halfway through the song and then come up, and he goes, and then you can sing with me. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. So that last week of the tour, I got to go up and do Black, 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 Black Number One. Yeah. It's so friggin' cool. So I met a lot of great people. I've met a lot of great people in this business, but I have a huge soft spot for Pete and everything they did. I could sit here for hours and tell you all the things that Pete did and the times that I saw him even after that. So when he passed, it sucked. Yeah. And the details never really came out as to what really happened, but Pete had health issues. Yeah, he had a heart some condition. Of them were complicated by his drug use. And like I said in that story, like Pete didn't casually, he did the amount of drugs that would kill most people. Yeah. Like, you can't do that to your body for so many number of years and not have some kind of repercussions. Yeah, 2 8-balls to the face every day is not how you live your life. Yeah. So, and he had periods of sobriety, and he never even drank or did drugs until he was like 30 years old. Wow. So, but when he did start it, yeah, he again was one of those people like myself. It's like, oh, you're gonna have 2 beers, well, I'm gonna have 20 beers. Yeah. He always took things to an extreme. Plus, he's like 20 foot tall and just built, so like he could just handle. Just blah blah blah. But just such a cool dude. Every day on tour, he was, we always had great conversation. Man, just that was a cool guy. Yeah, that was one person I definitely really. It's something like that. It's like, I didn't financially really make any money, but like, dude, I got to like become friends with one of my idols, one of my favorite bands. I mean. Right. How many people can say that? Right. How many people were singing Black Number One every day on tour with Typo Negative? Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, totally, man. I'm so with you in that aspect of music. Is like I spent a majority of my life chasing this thing, and it's like, I don't have. Like just now in our lives, we're able to start saving money and start doing stuff. But we have friends who are. And my wife's a musician as well. We have friends who, the same thing. We're seeing them buy houses in California or buy a condo, like doing the big thing. Or hey, we bought a summer camp, got a boat. And I'm like, I don't have any, I got a minivan. Here's my gear. But I had the most amazing time. Like I wouldn't trade any of my experiences for any of the money in the world because it like you said, it's what makes me and those struggles and it makes me the musician that I am now, and it makes me the interesting person that I am now. And I don't know. I mean, now I'm going to go into the second half of my life with more success. Yeah, because I struggle. I love that, and so with Brand New Sin, what was kind of when did that start to fall apart, and then what sort of was the nail in the coffin? It was definitely during that touring cycle with Typo Negative that we were like, we're having a great time, But we were kind of at odds with our record label at the time. We were with a record label called Century Media at that point. And Century Media is one of the largest independent record labels in the world. And they, really focused on, when it comes to metal, there's like a couple of big record labels. There's Metal Blade Records, and there's Nuclear Blast, and there's Century Media. And those were like the three big, like, you put those three record labels together at one point, and they pretty much had probably 75% of all the extreme hard rock and heavy metal in the world signed to their labels.
Oh, wow.
So we were kind of at odds with them because we just weren't making them any money. We were not selling the units. Plus, you got to remember, we signed a record deal in 2001 when the whole record industry was falling apart.
Right. I was going to ask you, Napster, what happened? Because that's right in there.
That was when everything was falling apart. So, like, things are a little bit different now, but, like, they had no clue what the hell was going to happen. Streaming wasn't even an option. The iTunes was just kind of happening. There was, it was a free-for-all. So, like, we suffered. I mean, we gained fans, but the record label only was making money off of record sales, and record sales were in the shitter.
Yeah.
So you wonder how many people, if our record had come out 5 years earlier, or if we had started 5 years earlier, if we would have had more success, because our record label would have made more money, which in turn would have been able them to invest more into us, and spend more to do more things. So we got to a point where we weren't making any money. We were going out and just coming home with nothing, or we're coming home in the debt.
Yeah.
So we were just kind of all frustrated. We were frustrated not making money. We were frustrated at the fact that we weren't getting the success. All of our drug use and our drinking had been amplified, and it just made for a really shitty situation. And right around that time, at the end of 2007, I lost my father. My father passed away, and like when that kind of happened, I was like, all right, what am I doing with my life? Like, what am I going to do? Our record label doesn't want us anymore, or they still wanted us, but they wanted us to renegotiate for much less money. And we're just like, we're not even getting any money now. How are we going to make it work? So I was just like, I think it's kind of over. I think I've made this as far as it could. And we were kind of butting heads in the band, and not getting into the gory details. But one day I just kind of had a conversation. I told him that I kind of wanted to step away for a little bit to kind of get my head straight, because the previous 8 years of this band had spun my head pretty good. And my dad had just passed, and I'm just like, okay, I got to figure something out. I kind of hit a crossroads, and they were like, well, we want to keep going on, and come on, let's do that. I'm like, I can't. And I bowed out, and I said, good luck. And they went on and made 2 more records. They didn't, independently, they didn't do anything with them. And then that band eventually fell apart until we reunited about a year ago. So, but I left, and I didn't really know what the hell I was going to do. So that was when Just Joe was born. Mm-hmm. I had been doing shows prior to that, but then it was like, okay, this is going to be I don't want to go back to a real estate job. Right. After being a rock and roll star for 8 years, I'm like, no, I don't want to go back to a real work.
Right.
How do I not work? And I found a way not to work.
I'm with you, though. No, and it's funny when you're saying that. It's like you see all of our, you see all your friends doing well with their new condos in Southern California, but when you ask them about their lives and, so how's your job? It's like, I'm miserable. I hate it. I fucking hate it. I hate my wife. I hate my children. It's like this. You have all this shit, but but you hate everything about it, and how So it's just like, I don't know. There's a weird trade-off to like living on the edge.
Yeah.
There's a weird trade-off.
Well, it's what you want out of life. What makes you happy.
Yeah, exactly.
I could have I know I would have been successful either becoming a teacher or whatever I applied myself to. I mean, the last day job I had was while I was going through, transition, was I was a bank teller.
Oh, wow.
I worked at a bank. But they wanted me to join the management program, and I could have easily gotten into that and been a bank manager. And, that would have been a very solid career.
Right, it is.
But I'm like, no. I'm literally here until my fucking music.
It's prison. It's prison. I mean, for me, it's prison.
Some people, I'm not knocking. I mean,
no, right.
If that makes you happy, it makes you happy. But for me, I could not. There's no way. There's no way I could have existed that way.
Those cubicles might as well be a prison cell, man.
No,
so you started. So what you did was you started after the band, and you're like, I can't go back to work. You're like, I got it. I'll just start jamming the piano and go.
Yeah. I mean, I was doing that coming off the road. Mm-hmm. My guys would go get like day jobs, like mowing lawns or painting houses or doing whatever until we went back out on the road. But I had a couple hundred songs in my repertoire, and I was a novelty act because everyone's like, "Oh my God, Joe from Brand New Sin does like Elton John songs, and we got to go see this." So then people would come out, and it was a way. And then I was starting to get bookings, but I couldn't book all the time because my first focus was Brand New Sin. So if there was band rehearsal or a show or a weekend of shows, I couldn't commit to like shows.
Right.
So I could only do them here and there, but they were becoming offers. So when I left the band, the offers came in more and more, and I was seeing guys in this town and making money. And I'm like, I'm just as good as them. I'm just as good as these guys playing 5 nights a week. I could do this. And luckily I already had a name for myself because I was Joe from Brand New Sin So I knew a lot of people. So I started just using that in my favor to start getting some gigs.
Yeah.
And then I was like, just because that got me in the door, but then I had to do the work to get to where I was, so from 2008 up until, a few months ago, that was all I did. It was the constant hustle playing gigs. And to the point where I think that first year was like 100 gigs or so. And the next year was like 150 gigs. And then the year after that was like, I hit 200 gigs. And then all of a sudden it was like within 3 years, by like probably about 2010, I was up to 300 gigs a year. So for the past 10 years, I've been playing 300 gigs a year, whether they're bar gigs, weddings, bar mitzvahs, backyard parties, whatever it is, it's a gig.
Yeah.
Or singing Telegram or something like that.
Nelly
those aren't it. That was something else. So 300 actual gigs, and then my studio work, and then the Loveograms. So dude, you're thinking, I'm just constantly playing, but I busted my ass. But then all of a sudden, March comes and we have a pandemic, and then they're like, "Oh yeah," and I'm like, "Oh fuck, what do I do?"
No, I do. Yeah. So, kind of tell me how that all unfolded for you. I started listening to your podcast, which, my God, it's so good. You have I know. He says, I know. I love that. It's so good.
I know. It's so much fun. Like, I can't wait to figure out how to do that because I can't get back into the radio studio yet to start doing it. So that's why you and I have been talking. How do I make this happen here? Because I have guests out the wazoo because all my friends that are touring musicians are home right now.
Just sitting there waiting to talk to
you. My friends from Bad Wolves, my buddy from Earshot, I can sit here and name all these bands. They're like, dude, I would love to be on your podcast. I'm like, God damn, I got to get my shit up and running. But the podcast is so much fun. But I think this is where you're headed, and tell me if I'm wrong. Like, how the hell did I get to Twitch?
Well, kind of, but I was gonna just comment on because you were talking about we're talking about how you got into Twitch and the pandemic, but where I was kind of going with it was that you kind of have this natural ability to talk, and even though and I listened to an episode, and I listened to your last couple episodes, and you kind of gave a great breakdown on how you feel about the pandemic. So I kind of got a good understanding. But I want you to kind of go through it with us. But Nelly was saying something about K-Rock. K-Rock got you into Twitch.
Yep. Because I've been on K-Rock as I started as a guest once in a while, and then it became, hey, you want to come in once a week? Yeah. And then the ratings were showing like, hey, they like that. We're getting good feedback. Yeah. Hey, you want to be on twice a week? So then I literally became an employee a part-time employee of the radio station. And then that led to like, hey, you should do a podcast. We think you could have a great podcast. So everything kind of led to that. So in that last year, I've been doing K-Rock for over 3 years now. But in the past year, it was about over a year ago, Josh, who is the head of the morning show, he just always was finding different ways to get the listeners to engage, because he saw that, like, back in the day, you just spoke, you got a couple phone calls once in a while. Hey, the phone lines are open. But other than that, you didn't interact with your audience unless you were out at like a remote thing or something like that. But like Josh set up a thing years ago, even before I was on there, called the text line, like a Google Voice thing. Yeah. So you could text in, so you could actually interact in real time with the DJs. And then eventually we started doing live on YouTube, live on Facebook. And then Josh is like, dude, I think we should start going on Twitch. So then we started doing Twitch. And then we're like, you know what? The conversations that we're having in between commercial breaks, we can speak candidly and we can swear. That's what people really wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So then we're like, you know what? We're leaving the microphones on all the time.
That's so cool.
And then the interactions, and all of a sudden the Twitch thing blew up for K-Rock.
Wow.
And Josh one day sitting with me after the show, he's like, dude, have you really looked into Twitch? I'm like, other than here, no. He's like, do you realize there's musicians on there just killing it, like literally making a living on there? And he goes, no offense, but he goes, you're better than most of them. And you have more, you have all this, you already have the speaking experience, you already have a personality, you have the stories. He's like, you would be so successful. Why don't you start doing it? I'm like, dude, when do I have time? I got to run up the door. I'm playing 300 gigs a year. What night am I going to Twitch?
Right.
You know, and I'm going to literally walk away from $300, $400, $500, $600, $700.
Right.
Like I can't, you know? So he kept saying, he's like, dude, I really think you're going to be a star on Twitch. I really think you're going to be a star on Twitch. And he kept pushing me. I'm like, all right, maybe I'll get to it at some point. And then all of a sudden the pandemic hit. And on that Friday, the Friday the 13th in March, when we knew everything was going to start getting locked down, he called me. He's like, I really think you should start Twitching tomorrow. Can you get he goes, go right now. And I went and I got the last paycheck I got from K-Rock. I went and grabbed it. I went right to Best Buy and I bought a camera, one of the last good cameras you could buy because they're really hard to find right
can't
now.
find them now.
I went and bought all that stuff, and Josh and I revamped my studio in my old place.
Yeah, I saw you in your old place.
I moved into here, and in 6 hours on Saturday, we set everything up. Wow. It was cobbed together. We didn't have completely everything, but we cobbed it together. And on March 14th, I did my very first stream. Yeah. And I had the best thing that helped me is that K-Rock already had 6,000 followers. I already had a presence on Facebook. So Josh was just like, why don't you just stream and then we'll just raid you every time. We'll bring over the 50, 60, 70, 80 people over. So it was like, everyone already knows you. So I already had a built-in crowd. So I was very lucky in that regards because a lot of people, like, they turn their camera on. They're like, I don't even know if someone's going to tune in. Does anyone know what I'm doing?
Right.
Do I know what I'm doing? So I was familiar with the platform, and I had Josh in the K-Rock community really to do that. But then that was the way that we kind of helped each other. So then all of a sudden, here we are 3 months later, and I'm literally at a point where I'm starting to make a living off of this. And if it keeps continuing this trend that it is, you know, from affiliate to at some point I will be partnered, and probably sooner than later. Yeah. Then things have changed. You know, I have endorsements. I'm signing on more endorsements, more advertisers, more this and that, more home-based stuff. And all of a sudden, when we peel out of this, whenever the hell it is, because right now it looks like we're peeling out of it, but at the same time, it looks like we're about to go backwards.
Yeah.
I'm confident that maybe I only have to play 5 or 6 real shows a month, and the rest of the time I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, and I love it because, you know, the other morning on Twitch, 120 some odd people in there, and maybe 10% of them were in the Central New York area.
Yeah.
Everyone else is like, hey, we're from Saudi Arabia, from Lithuania, we're in Glasgow, we're in fucking Dubai.
Right.
I'm like, what the hell? It's like this whole world. And when I try to explain Twitch to people, people are like, huh? And I'm like, you have to come in and see what it's about. Like, welcome to the future.
It's so true because it's like everybody, and you know what's funny? 5 years ago when I started my podcast, no one knew what a podcast was 5 years ago. People were just like, I don't know, like, it's like, come on my podcast. They're like, what is that? And I'm like, I don't know, internet radio. Just come do it, stupid. Get over here.
Yeah.
And it's so now, look what podcasts are today. And then now you look at Twitch. I talked to the Fantastic Plastics a couple weeks ago now, and those guys are great. Another great music streaming band. You guys should definitely go check out the Fantastic Plastics, which I'm sure everybody on this feed probably right now probably is a fan.
Yeah,
but
we all know.
but they were saying they made some really interesting points because you were just saying welcome to the future, and I think that too, and everybody who's on Twitch is saying it, and it's just it's becoming very, very apparent, and it's only highlighted by this pandemic. But they were saying, you look at how YouTube was started, and it was looked at as this sort of, oh, it's cool, you see kittens and crap and whatever, and they didn't see the potential in it. And now look at YouTube once. And so he was saying, man, I forgot his name. God, I'm so terrible. But Mr. Fantastic, Mr. Plastic, Mr. Plastic was saying, he's like, wait until they start, really launching these Twitch stars. Wait until people really start seeing.
That's what I had a conversation. I had a conversation with Andy the Frenchie. She just got partnered on Twitch.
Nice.
And her and I have, we there's this community that we're all talking with, and we all help each other out, which is one of the things I love about Twitch.
Right.
It's just this huge sense of community, which does not exist in the real world anymore.
It doesn't.
Does not exist. Doesn't exist. But we're like, two things. We're going to start seeing people become big stars. Like Justin Bieber became a huge, he was a YouTube star.
Right.
So Jared Dines, who's a huge YouTube musician, he's working with all these heavy metal guys now. He's making a record with all these heavy metal guys. He's heavy metal guitar. He's a YouTube star. You're going to see in the next couple of years, you're going to be like, well, he was a Twitch star. We found he was discovered on Twitch. He became huge on Twitch. And the other factor that I know that's going to happen is the inner workings of this is that in January, Twitch stole one of the big guys from Spotify to come over to head up music and performing arts on Twitch. Because music and performing arts, talking with Doc Bizzle, who was one of the first Twitch music streamers that got kind of big, and Doc was like, dude, I was big, but it was before there was no music and performance category.
Right.
No one knew what the hell we were doing. And he goes, music was not really, we were just kind of in our own little thing over there. Now he goes, now it's a category, and now it's becoming a bigger and bigger thing. Obviously, again, highlighted by the pandemic, but Twitch is going all in with the music, and the people that they're hiring show that they're going to do that. And yes, we have a little thing going on with the DMCA, with the Digital Music Copyright Act, but that will get worked out. It's only because that's going to get worked out, because there's no way they're going to stop that. Right. Amazon's got way too much money and too much clout to not have that worked out at some point.
Well,
I'm not concerned.
I see how much you're not concerned, because I went and queued up one of your videos just to play or whatever if we had time. But like some of the chunks were muted, and I was like, oh, does he not give a shit? And you heard it here first. Just Joe does not give a shit. So you think that this will kind of blow over?
No, the legality will work out of it. Mm-hmm. It'll work out. I mean, it worked out on Facebook. There was legality going on there. Basically, you just have to come up with a content ID system that identifies that the music's being played, and then Twitch will just have to pay out, just like a radio station does, or that YouTube does, or that monetization. They just have to find a way to monetize it.
Right.
Like me playing covers isn't a problem.
Right.
That's always been covered. That's not the issue. The issue is me playing a Lady Gaga song across my stream.
Right.
And at first they were ripping people down, but now they're just going to mute the audio.
Again, they're just going back. So it just seems like somebody somewhere just got a hair up their ass and was like, I'm just going to go cause trouble.
I think the large publishers, people like Warner Chappell and, EMI, and some of those large publishing corporations that own, the rights to Beatles songs, owns the right to Lady Gaga songs. Those artists have the ability, the Eagles have the ability to have a lawyer on retainer watching out to make sure that the music is being used correctly and they're getting paid for it. And as a musician, if someone was sitting there streaming Brand New Sin or Just Joe music all night, and that was their entire music stream, Yeah, I want to get compensated for that, on some level. So I get it on both sides. They just have to come up with a way. I mean, we have the ability. We can take SoundHound or Shazam and be like, "What song is this?"
Right.
And hold it up, and it identifies it. And you're like, "All right, cool." That's all they're going to end up having to do internally with Twitch. And once they do that, then they'll be like, "Hey, Just Joe did live covers and played 3 or 4 songs over, and he paid it for 15 seconds, so that calculates down to 45 cents to Lady Gaga."
Right.
That's what they're just going to, they don't have a system like that worked out. And that's basically what it is. They're not trying to stifle it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be like, well, music on Twitch is done. No, they're just finding a way to make sure that the right holder get their money, and Amazon, so a little portion of all the proceeds that are coming off ads and all that stuff will have to get allocated to the people that were, so it I'm sure it'll work out, and we won't even know. It'll just all of a sudden start happening.
It's just happening. So. Well, chat. I just saw in chat right here, someone's bringing up that, which is a good point, is that there's some actual musicians who are playing their own published music who are getting, yes. So it's like, it's really backwards.
You're one and music, or even Just Joe music, because that's covered by BMI, even though I own 100% of the rights of Just Joe. Brand New Sin I don't own, because there's other members of the band, there's record deals, and there's publishing companies involved in that. But even if I played my stuff, Just Joe stuff, I could get flagged because it's going to trigger something in the broadcast music industry, BMI catalogs, that my song got played, but it was me playing my own song. But I could get flagged for playing my own song. That happened once on YouTube.
Yeah,
I put up a video and they're like, well, there's a copyright claim. I'm like, I'm the copyright. I'm the guy. But yet I can't make money off of this because it's my music, because it's really backwards. But I mean, I understand the chain of command that gets to it, and that's fine. I will still get paid at some point, but it's pretty asinine at times,
Right.
It's not going to stop me. For a minute, I stopped doing the live learns and I was just doing them over my headphones. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Let them mute the audio, because I read some articles. I'm like, oh, they're just going to mute the audio. They're not going to, you're not going to get in any trouble. They're just going to mute the audio, just like they're doing. I'm like, all right, well then they'll mute the audio for that and whatever, and I'll clip out whatever I need to clip out. But it's not going to stop me from doing what I do, because that's one of the things that people love about my thing. They're like, you get to watch me. Like I said, going back to earlier podcast, I sat down at the age of 4 or 5 and would sit there and listen to a song and figure it out.
Yeah.
That's a really cool, like, hey, you want to see me pull a rabbit out of my hat?
It is.
That's one of my magic tricks. Like,
absolutely.
Hey, I'm going to learn, listen to a song, and within 2 minutes, I'm going to fucking play the song.
Yeah.
I've never.
Right.
It's
so weird. It's so funny how, like, all roads sort of lead to, a certain destination. Like, you just, like, this talent of just picking things out as a kid on the piano, and the talent of learning how to talk to people as a frontman and being on the radio, and it's just like, and then the years of hustling and learning all these songs. I mean, it just comes together in this weird point. And as I get older, I just keep finding more and more. It's just like all these crazy things that you sort of acquire on this path all lead to something. It's just, you got to be paying attention to what it is.
Well, I'm more self-aware about it now than I've ever been, because for years I was just running around with my chicken, my head cut off, just hustling really hard. And then it sounds weird, but I read a book and it changed my life. Which
one?
I read it's called Outliers by Malcolm
Gladwell. Yeah, I love Malcolm Gladwell.
He wrote a book called Tipping Point, which I read prior to that, which was a very interesting book. But it was really the precursor to what Outliers would be. And Outliers, without getting into a whole discussion about the book, it basically quantified how many hours it takes to become successful at something. What made the Beatles so successful? What made Bill Gates so successful? What made John Rockefeller so successful? Those are some of the main people they talked about in the book. And they're like, okay, was it, luck? Was it pure talent? Was it like somebody with money in the band? Was it, were they born for money? What made them so successful? Yes, you do need those things. But the one quantifiable thing that they could figure out was 10,000 hours of doing one task, which equals out to about 10 years of your life.
Yeah, it does.
So who out there can literally commit 10 years of their life to one specific task? And then once you hit that 10,000 hours, that's when the magic kind of will happen.
Right.
Then right place, right time, money, those things will then help you elevate. Doesn't mean that 10,000 hours, you're like, hey, I'm here. I'm ready for all my success.
I'm ready for my Grammy.
Right. I'm ready for this. But once I read that book, I became more self-aware and cognizant of everything that I was doing, being a part of these 10,000 hours that I was doing. So I made a very calculated decision, and every move that I made to be able to keeping me in that rut, or not the rut, but on that path this way.
Yeah.
And which enabled me, like Josh said, when I was on the morning show for the first time in 3 months the other morning, he goes, dude, you pivoted so seamlessly from 300 gigs a year to Twitch.
Yeah.
And everything else that comes along with it, my online concerts, all these other things that I'm doing. It looks like you just did a crossover like Allen Iverson, and everyone just went, what? And you just went, yep, laid up.
Went right with you.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, it's interesting because you see this pattern with you where you run into a problem and then you have this instinct to just reinvent.
Yes.
And I find that in a lot of musicians, a lot of artists, a lot of people who are self-made, is this instinct to reinvent. When the 300 gigs a year dried up at the beginning of the pandemic, and you're going into, I need to figure this out mode, reinvent mode. How were you emotionally? How were you able to handle the transition?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, that first week when I saw it coming, I started freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
Hard. Because I'm like, how the fuck am I going to pay my bills? And like, I have a giant overhead, you know, like, I have debt, you know, and I have an ex-wife, I have child support, you know, like I have things, you know, I'm like, how am I going to do this? I got rent and I got, you know, a payment on my computer, and I freaked out. And then I'm like, my accountant's like, relax. My accountant, she's worth her weight in gold. I could have another podcast on how much I love her. She called me. She said, shut up. Just do what you do. I got it. And she did. She made everything work out with a million different things. But then when Josh is like, dude, let's just dive in. Take all that energy that you got and just dive into Twitch.
Yeah.
And it was a crash course for like 3 weeks, because there was sometimes I was streaming. I'm like, oh, what's going on? How do I do this? You know, like I would love to go back and look at my Twitch streams from like 3 months ago as opposed to now, and watch how quickly I progressed. But I was literally eating. I had nowhere else to go. Couldn't leave the freaking house.
Yeah.
Couldn't go to the gym. So it's like, all I had was to get up and just work on Twitch.
Yeah.
So every day I was reading this or adding this, and I'm still doing that. But I was like, that's what I did. Emotionally, I was like, okay, I'm not going to let myself spiral and just drink whiskey all day and smoke a joint, you know, like that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure out how to constructively put it and not be, no offense to some of my counterparts, but sit there go, can't wait till the gigs come back. I'm just going to start, can't wait till the gigs get back, and woe is me and woe is me. But the best thing that I did was, one, dive into that, and second of all, have an accountant that literally all these years, I'm like, man, I'm getting killed with taxes this year. It's because I was a legit business and ran myself as a legit business for the past 10 years that I was able to get the support and get all the things that I could have done, whereas some of my other musicians, I just hide that money. I don't pay taxes on that. I don't do that. And then all of a sudden this happened. And when they needed help, like, man, I need to go on unemployment, or I need to get a PPP loan, or I need this. And they're going to look at you like, well, dude, you're showing that you make 10 grand a year. You're not going to qualify for shit.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I had the same thing with my friends as well, man. Like, you're seeing, and I have friends out who are living in Southern California, LA, San Diego, and you know that those places aren't cheap, you know, and so they weren't filing their taxes right, they weren't doing shit right. I mean, this whole pandemic just highlighted all the cracks in everyone's life, this nation's life. It just highlighted all of those spots that needed to be filled in, man.
Well, it did, and I in a lot of senses, a lot of my friends are not just musicians, but I have a lot of friends that work on the behind the scenes.
Yeah,
you know,
production. Right.
There's roadies. And those are the people I'm like, my heart hurts. My heart hurts for a lot of people, but like, it really hurts for the people that are really close to me, because some of them are like, summertime is when they make all of their money.
This is it.
And summer, and they're all like, what do we do? What do we do? And it's going to be a long time, as we're seeing, especially in the past week. I told everybody, man, I'm like, I'm not Nostradamus by any means, but like, watch what happens in the states that didn't do what New York did.
Right.
And what happened. And now we're going to be at a point, and everyone's like, oh, summer will kill this virus off. Like, oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know about the 9,000 cases yesterday in Florida. That's 90 degrees. It doesn't look like it's doing anything down there. So like, and I'm in a position where I'm like, I'm going to like, I've played only 2 real gigs, and the rest of the summer I might play one here and there, but my accountant put me in a spot where she's like, just do this. I'm pointing behind me. She goes, keep on this. She goes, that's be, let me handle everything else, don't worry about it. And she's put me in a position where, I'm not rich by any means, but I'm in a position where I can do my day-to-day stuff and not have to, well, oh my God, do I got to go play a gig for $300 so I can pay the water bill or whatnot? I'm blessed, but you know what, at the same time, I feel bad for some people that literally can't do anything, but there's some people that could have done something, because I always had in the back of my mind, I'm like, what would happen if someday all the gigs
dried up? I've been talking about this since last year on this podcast. Anybody who listens to this podcast knows, but it was after I read the Andrew Yang book, and I was like, dude, robots are taking our jobs. We're fucked. And then it turned out that it was the virus took our jobs, and now we're fucked. And now we're going to have to rely on that technology.
Right. And that's what I said. I always said to myself, I'm like, I'm not going to put all my eggs in the basket of just my gigs. And that's why I created Love. That's why I created my nightly tunage, where I have advertisers on that. And I got a couple other things that are in the works that I haven't launched yet. One I'll launch this weekend, because I shot, I'll say it here. I had someone be like, well, we wanted to hire you for one of your Zoom concerts to this company I signed on with called toPianist. But they're like, we can't figure out an exact time where we want to do it. Could you just film 8 songs and put it up on a YouTube link, or send us the link and we can download it and put it up on our TV, and then we can watch it anytime we want? Or my husband and I can sit down and enjoy our own private concert for our anniversary. Like, absolutely. So she picked 8 songs. I sat down yesterday and I recorded it, put all the audio to it. I talked to them, and gave it to them. And then they have that forever. Yeah. They can watch it tomorrow night. And then they can always go back and like, what a great memento. So like, I've always had these other things twirling in my head, because I said this about 3 years ago. I'm like, what happened if like all the music went away? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, what if places didn't make the money? What if we became obsolete? Right. What if we eat us at a restaurant anymore? Because restaurants are starting to go like this anyways. They were starting to anyways. They didn't need big restaurants they were going by the wayside before COVID. Wow. What if they go away? What if there's not places for us to play? Right. And that's why I kept developing this shit. And that's why I'm going to keep doing it, because I told everybody, I don't think we're going to go back to where the days where I'm doing 300 gigs. I think you're going to have to pivot as a musician and start embracing technology and finding a way. Because the people that you would have never known who the hell I was if I didn't start twitching. No. And I got fans all over the world that would never know, because I would be running down the road to play at Joe's Bar and Grill. Right. On a Friday night for a couple $100 and a couple beers and a pizza. Right. Yeah. Now I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to hang out with my daughter here in a little bit, and then I'm going to Twitch tonight after she goes to bed.
That's amazing, man. And I was talking to Chance ATL, which we mentioned. Yeah. He was on last week, and he was talking about how. We kind of talked about after you load all your gear, and like depending on where you live, if you have to go out in the winter and you're there all night, you're getting beer on your stuff, people are talking loudly at you all the time, and you have to drive there, drive back, practice and all of this. And when you can just seriously just walk into your studio, turn shit on and just go, and then when it's all done, we're not having to settle up with no asshole bar owner. We don't have to talk to the drunk assholes who are trying to get one more song, bro. And
come on. And I'm like, dude, I'm just playing 3 hours. Like, I'm done.
I'm tired, man.
Get it, but then but now it's like, if I have a slow night on Twitch, no one's gonna be like, well, it's kind of slow. I guess I'm gonna can you take half the money, or like, hey, you want to end a little early or whatnot? It's like now, it's like, well, it's just a slow night, whatever. I don't have anyone to answer to it or anything like that.
Right.
Or I just be like, well, I'm just going to end early tonight. I see that we're not getting any traction, or, we're spinning our wheels here, and we'll live for another day. And then here's the other thing. I'm looking forward to, like, here in New York, especially in Syracuse, we're the snowiest city in America. No city gets more snow. There's places that get more snow, but when it comes to the metropolitan area, nobody has winters like Syracuse. Syracuse is usually ranked as the worst place to live during the winter. Yeah. Not just because of the snow, but the cold, and it's miserable here. So, like, we deal with this whole thing. Like, you book all these gigs in the wintertime, and then they're like, well, it's snow, and we're going to cancel the gig. And then you go through a rough spot, or it's too cold, and no one's leaving their houses. So now, before, I'm like, shit, I just lost my gigs, like 3 gigs this weekend because of the snowstorm. Now it's like the snowstorm is actually going to help me because everyone's going to be freaking home.
Yep.
Like, well, what do we else? Oh,
hell
it's
yeah!
Like such an amazing turn, and I'm excited for it, And I've tried to tell some of my other musician friends, like, dude, you should really get on here. And they're like, well, you had some help in the beginning. I'm like, yeah, I had help because I busted my ass to get help. Right. But I go, get on there. And they're like, well, it just seems like we'll be playing for nobody for a little while. I'm like, you will, but how did you build your music career otherwise? You have to, like, you're not going to come here and be successful too. You have to work it. You have to work just as hard at that as you did anything else. So like, get over there, because like when everything starts to, all the restrictions start coming back because a second wave happens, or, Florida just shut down all their bars today. Mm-hmm. No bars. Texas did the same fucking thing. Arizona, that's going to start happening. It's like, dude, all these gigs that all of a sudden you started getting, you're going to start losing them again. And then you're going to be back to what you should have been fucking doing a few months ago. But to the people that I don't feel sorry for, I'm sorry.
No, me neither.
Like, I feel sorry for you in a way, but at the same time, you have to evolve, man. If you're not evolving, you're going to die by the wayside. And I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of musicians that are going to end up having to go back to like part-time work or full-time work until they can figure out how to pivot. Wow. And it's like that. The world is their oyster if they just choose to learn it.
Yeah. Most people don't want to go through the embarrassment or they fear that they're going to fail. And that's how you learn. It's the only way you get better.
You don't get better by just having success all the time. Right. You become successful because you failed.
Right. Yeah.
99 times out of 10, you fall. It's that other, you get up. What you do is get up, and that one time, that 10th time you get up, then you get successful because you fell the other 9 times.
Yeah, man.
That applies to anything in life, and especially to music, because music is so subjective. It's how do you put a price on music? Like, you can put a price on a loaf of bread or an apple because, well, the market price shows that apples right now are in abundance, so the price is going to drop. Or, gasoline, there's a stock market for that. Mm-hmm. Gauge how much that is worth. How do you gauge music? It's an emotional thing. It's priceless. So for you to be able to put a price on something, some people are going to be like, oh my God, that's worth every penny. And other people are like, that's how much? Yeah. It's always subjective, because I have people like, well, how much for a Lovegram? And I tell them, they're like, oh man, here. And I have other people like, oh my God, I was only thinking like $20. I'm like, well, dude, what the fuck do you think? I got to drive there. I got to do this. I got to do all these things are involved, but there's no thing like, well, so-and-so does it for that. I'm like, well, then go get so-and-so.
Yeah.
That apples are like slightly cheaper, but go ahead and go and get them. They're crap and they're probably half rotten, and that's why they're cheaper. So, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Joe, I really appreciate you coming on the show and spending time with us. Let me get this. Do you got time for a quick game? It'll be about 10 more minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And I got one question from the chat for the guest here. What's the one song you wish you wrote?
Oh God, a lot of them I wish I wrote.
I know, it's a hard one.
I mean, there's 2 answers to this. One is you're obviously going to pick a song that, like, if I wrote that song, you'd be living in a hill in Hollywood with everything you've ever wanted.
Right.
And there's the one God, I really wish I wrote that song because it's just absolutely beautiful.
Right.
Like, I mean, as much as, and this is coming off the top of my head because there's a million songs that I wish that would make me successful. But as much as I hate the song, I wish I wrote Piano Man.
Hey, yeah, the song that you don't want to play. Yeah.
One, because it's so successful. And two, like, holy shit, that song is 50 years old, nearly 50 years old. Mm-hmm. And people still want to hear it. Yeah. It connects. It's going to be thousands of years from now, and someone is going to walk up to somebody playing the fucking piano, and they'll be like, "Can you play Piano Man?" It's going to live longer than any of us.
Yeah.
It's going to live longer than my kids and my kids' kids and the kids' kids.
Yeah.
So that as a legacy, like Billy Joel should be like, yeah, dude, that song is going to live forever. So, you know, and his kids and his somebody's even making money off that for eons.
Oh, yeah.
So that is the song that I wish I wrote. And then there's these handfuls of songs that every once in a while that I wish I wrote, but that are just absolutely beautiful. And there's a few Jason Isbell songs and a few Chris Stapleton songs that I think I wish I wrote, or I feel that I did write in some way. But the first one off the top of my head, and I play it once in a while on my stream, is a song called Either Way by Chris Stapleton. It just, oh my God, it just, for me, because I went through exactly what he describes, but holy, like, just one of those songs that just hits you and floors your aching thing. And I wish I could. It's a song like that I wish I wrote.
Yeah.
There's other songs I could sit here and name that I wish I wrote, but that one comes to mind. So those two songs, let's say Piano Man and Either Way by Chris Taylor.
That's good answers, man. And then One Beach Bum wants you to know that you wrote a song that was fantastic. It was the last song that you wrote, and it was perfect for the now times, is what One Beach Bum says. And yeah, I heard that song. That's you released it like what, a month ago? It was like, so
yeah, a little.
And what was that called?
It's called In Its Time.
In Its
Yeah.
Okay. No, wait. Never mind. I thought I read something different on the chat. Okay. Anyways, I wish we could play your music, but we can't because you.
People, they can find me on all that. I'll just put in Just Joe on Google, and it's pretty easy. I'm the first guy that comes up.
He's very searchable, everybody. Okay, we're gonna play a game, and then we're gonna let Just Joe go and hang out with his daughter. So, everybody, we'll be right back with games. So just sit tight, and we'll be right back. Oh, I'm gonna turn on some music for you guys so you can jam for a little bit. Here we go, some sexiness. All right, we'll be right back, guys. All right, we're coming back, folks. Here we go. We got our... Get this going. And I love that. Okay. Joe's up here in the corner, everybody. So there he is. And we're going to play How Much Does It Cost on Craigslist? And so we have prizes to give away. Yeah. It works kind of like...
I'm like, what are we going to do with it?
It kind of works...
So much fun.
Well, it kind of works like Price is Right. You guess how you bid on how much you think the price is worth, and it doesn't matter if you go over. It's just whoever is closest, and whoever is closest gets to win a patch. And I don't know if you can see that, Joe, but here from our sponsor, modedstudios.com, they got fully embroidered patches and apparel. Go check them out, modestudios.com, MODEDSTUDIOS.com. So this one's up for grabs. Herpes, wrap it up. I had the coronavirus before it was cool. Very topical, very, very now. And then the last one is the East Coast. Since we're talking to just Joe Syracuse, it's a take on the North Face logo, the East Coast, though. So, Joe, you're playing, so you can win one of these patches. And we're going to get right into it now with this fun little collector's lion. So I'm going to read the description. There's the picture of the item, and then we're going to start dropping bids. So here we go. Collectors, Lions moving sign, very rare, circa 1930s. Let's see. Lions Moving Company original truck sign, solid steel with beautiful lion in enamel. Incredible looking piece to have on your wall, inside or out. Definitely a sought after and rare original collectible. These were made to mount on the sides of the Lions moving vans. Pretty cool, huh? Made of steel and enamel. So this is out of Sherman Oaks, California, and that's it. And so go ahead and drop your bids in the chat, and we'll get on it. And Joe, we'll start with you while they do their thing.
Man, I don't even know, but I'm going to take a guess at I'll say $750.
Okay, I'm going to turn this music down a little more. Okay. Okay, guys, Joe says you said 750?
750.
Okay. 750. Let's see. We have Reina has 1200, Beach Bum has 800. Uncle Ray, what's up, Uncle Ray? I saw you sneak in. Thank you for saying the interview was cool earlier. I saw that. 1250. Nelly, we got 2500. Mighty 800. Beach Bum, you already bid, homie. You can't be bidding twice. Okay, and the actual retail price on Craigslist. Well, I guess I should have had this pulled up, but I didn't. Oh my, we're learning, everybody.
All right, I'm so interested to find out what this is.
Me too. If I could just find the damn thing. There it is. There you go. $6,050. Who had it? I think that's Nelly. Nelly took it. Nelly, so you can...
Well, I thought about it. I'm like, man, that could be super expensive, and God damn, it was.
Yeah, it's Sherman Oaks, California, so it's LA. So LA, they're always overcharging over there.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Nelly, you could pick between these three right here, if you want. Herpes, coronavirus, or the East Coast, and you can whisper me your address or PO box or however you want to receive it, and just whisper. So thank you so much, Nelly. So Nelly, you played. So this next round, this will be our last round, and then we're gonna let Joe go hang out with his so cute little daughter. She's so precious. All right.
What's next? All right, I gotta go into this one a little bit.
Okay, yeah, you gotta get your head in the game, man. You gotta get your head in the game.
No, I'm playing with her.
Okay, here we go. This one, life-size African Cape Buffalo taxidermy mount on custom habitat base.
Oh, yeah. An actual buffalo.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah. I think it's an actual buffalo that they stuffed and did. So it's an African Cape Buffalo life-size taxidermy on custom habit base, museum-like condition. Young adult male, excellent mount with terrific detail. The custom habitat base is on wheel casters featuring faw, African foliage, and grasses. This full-size, life-size African buffalo mount appears to be one of only two available for sale in the U.S. Scientific name, Sincercafer. Approximate dimensions 90 inches in length, 46 inches in width, and 59 in height. So there you go. Oh my goodness, Nelly is going $1 million.
My guess is 17,000. 17.
Joe is going 17.
Who has the money to buy this shit? Is my
Somebody.
My $17,000. I want that buffalo in my house.
Somebody in Seattle, I'll tell you that. This is from Federal Way, the neighborhood in Seattle. So,
1,000.
Okay, so you said 17,000, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, Joe says 17,000. We got One Beach Bum says 15,000. Reina says 3,200. Maite says 5,000. Nelly says 1,000,000. Uncle Ray says 7,000.
1,000,000. If this thing's $1 million, I'm gonna shit my pants.
That'd be dope. I forgot the price anyway, so hold on. Let me get this. All right, actual retail price. I need to get my drum roll back. Actual retail price on Craigslist.
What is it?
$3,500. You're a little off, Joe.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see.
That seems like a great deal.
Yeah, I do too. I think that is a good deal for. It looks like our moderator Reina Mystique has won. So Reina, you could pick out one of these. Sorry guys, our moderator took your chance to win. So tune in next time when we play, which is Monday actually. But we'll talk about that in a second. Let me get Joe to his daughter and wrap up here, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up here. Joe, thank you so much, my friend. I sincerely appreciate you.
Finally figured it out. So I'm hoping to get my podcast up and running the next week or so, probably after the 4th, because I think I'm going to take a little downtime next week and stuff. But yeah, it's time.
It's time. It's time. I mean, you can't go on forever. It's just not how it works. I'm trying to make you big, but I don't know how to fucking do it now. Oh, stop.
Sorry.
Hold on. I'm going to bring you back. You know what, Joe, thank you so much. I appreciate it again. I'm going to leave you small and tiny because I don't want to keep you here so I can figure out my technology. So have a great day, man. I'll see you tonight in your stream. What time do you stream tonight?
9 o'clock tonight.
9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, everybody. Just Joe Syracuse. Give him a round of applause. Oh, I'm so sorry. One more, Joe. One more. I'm so sorry. Did you already get your eggs? That's what. There was a question.
No, I haven't got my eggs yet.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Sorry. Whoever wanted to know that, Joe has not got his eggs. Joe, thank you so much. I appreciate it, man.
Bye, guys.
Peace.
See you.
Oh, that's how you stop. Of course, I figure it out after. All right, I'm going to come back to you guys. Hold on. All right.